Episode number 7 of Vomiting Rainbows. And on this episode, we've got Blag as our guest host.
I'm forever puking rainbows.
And myself and Mike. And please listen, enjoy, follow us on vomitingrainbows.com. And on any social media outlet, we Vomit Rainbows.
Yeah, we cover some heavy-duty topics in this episode. Police shootings, a couple of those.
Yeah.
And
racial
then,
issues.
Racial issues. We get into race. We get into
We're
America.
against them.
What else do we get? We get into
Some Jim and Drew Carrey.
That's right. We got a bunch of celebrity sightings in this one. You know what I mean? The Kardashians are in here.
Everything. So listen and enjoy. We have a special guest.
special.
Good-looking dude.
What do you mean he's special? What are we trying to? Why are you insulting our guests like that, man?
He means retarded.
Yeah. I mean talented.
You mean
very
legend?
Talented.
Legend, dude.
Legend. Wait for it. Dairy.
I am a legend in this game. That's right. My name is Blag the Ripper.
That's
San
right.
Francisco rock legend. If you're doing a little podcast, I think you need me in the place to be. Doug.
We do. And so in that, this is episode number 7, which is, we're coming up on that milestone for episode 10.
That's right. When we hit 10, we're going to get like shirts made, full merchandising, keychains, maybe some tattoos.
Maybe some tattoos.
Yeah, some forehead tattoos.
Or temporary tattoos.
Whatever. It's good.
The temps are cooler.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? I can switch them up. You know, I get different ones. I go out big anchor if it's a girl that likes Navy kind of stuff.
Exactly.
So, you know what I mean?
So, yeah, I mean, the one thing that we do on this podcast for everyone who is listening is I tell a bunch of stories to the two hosts that are here today, and I get their reactions.
That's right. We don't know what Doug's gonna say, but he's just gonna lay it out, and we're gonna react, and that's kind of the fun of it. Usually, it's a lot of grotesque news stories, which is kind of shocking, but it's a lot of fun.
Not even necessarily grotesque, just things that aren't usually in the mainstream media.
That's right.
I want to be in the mainstream media. I'm always on things that aren't in the mainstream media. But this time I'm going to the mainstream media, Doug. I'm going all the way. It's me and Mancini's.
Yeah. Blag's like, you just described my entire career.
That's
like, not
right.
being in the mainstream. What's up with
That's
that?
right. I don't want to be with those guys anymore.
You're ready
Those guys don't get paid.
You're waiting for something a little bit more mainstream?
That's right, man. I want to be more mainstream. I want to bust through, and just be like, I want, middle-aged housewives dropping their kids off at soccer to feel like, oh, Blag's on.
It's funny.
I like him.
You know that Doors song, like Break On Through the Other Side or whatever?
Right.
It's like when you're young, you're like, yeah, I'm going to break on through to the other side. And then you get older, you're like, I want to just break on through and get a paycheck.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to break on through to that side, the tedious side.
I want to break on through to the couch.
Yeah.
Chill.
Exactly.
So for you and this episode, we're actually going to do something mainstream.
All right. Excellent.
So, I don't know if you've heard of Terence Crutcher.
Terence Crutcher.
So Terence Crutcher was a man whose car broke down in Oklahoma near Tulsa. He's about 40 years old, and he...
in the tabloids, was he T-Crutch?
No.
Is that...
What kind of car was he driving?
Yeah.
It looked like an SUV of some sort, but I watched the helicopter footage of this.
Oh, man. When there's helicopter footage, you know something went haywire. Because I thought this was going to be like a sign of the time story. Like, 40-year-olds nowadays, they don't know how to fix anything. Your car breaks down, you call 911.
Right,
Call
sure.
AAA.
Cry a little.
Yeah,
cry
cry.
some about the
Right.
emotional impact
Yeah.
of what's happened with your car.
Yeah.
So he broke down in the middle of the road. Police officers saw him, and in their duty to protect and serve, they went to go check out what was going on and why his car was stopped. He said broken down in the middle of the road.
Yeah.
They got out of their car. He's African American.
Yeah.
And he was unarmed.
This just happened. I know this story.
Yeah.
Wait,
I
is
didn't know
this
the guy's
today?
name.
Yeah.
Wow.
It happened. It happened
Well,
a couple of
let's
days
watch
ago.
it. Let's look at it. That's
Yeah.
the whole thing. I didn't have to see it.
You
How
don't
could
get
I
to
know?
see it. You just get my
You're
visual.
Okay, what's your take on what went down?
I didn't know this guy's name, but keep going with the story.
Yeah. So
Because you thought it was T-Crutch. You keep listening over to KML.
That's right. Yo.
Yeah. So there were 3 officers who approached him. The first officer was Betty Shelby. Betty Shelby tried to get him to respond to her commands to stop moving, to not go towards the vehicle, and to pull his hands out of his pockets. He did. He put them over his head, but then he turned back towards the vehicle. And this happened, I watched it. It happened very quickly. He turns back to the vehicle, and then when he puts his hand kind of near the vehicle, he then immediately falls down, and she shot him. There was only one shot, but
cops give too many damn instructions.
Right.
They don't understand. It's like you're confused. They're screaming. It's loud, and they'll tell you 3 different things. You know,
put your hands up, walk away.
Yeah,
stand on one
let me
foot.
see your ID.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, well, how can I take my hands out of my pockets if I have to show you my ID? I don't know what to do. You know what I mean? They're always telling you too damn much.
Right.
Anytime I've had to interact with the police in a whatever manner where I'm ending up in jail, I basically just stand still and just put my hands up.
Yeah.
And then what happens, they come to you and they basically throw you on the ground and then handcuff you. And then it's like, I know I'm not going to get shot, but I just stop there.
Right.
And I just go, I'm just here. And I'd let them slowly walk to me. I just freeze like I'm made of stone. And then they kick your ass, and then you're arrested, and then it's like, okay, but at least you didn't get shot, right?
Yeah.
Like my whole thing is like if a cop comes out at you with a drum,
Both spoken like a white guy, for sure.
Okay,
and
there's no doubt.
I'm with you. That's why I think when this conversation happens, it's really hard for people to relate to the other story, because the way I look at it is like, yeah, man, at that point, you better give up. And the times when I haven't, when it's been like, hey, wait, no, officer, let me explain, and you kind of put your hand on theirs, or you try any shit like that, immediately I got thrown down to my knees and my hands chicken wing behind my back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if you do anything other than just giving up at that point, it does get fucked up. But then other, people are looking at that as, giving up their manhood, giving up their masculinity. They can't be induced to do that. They don't want to go out like that.
I'm not even talking just about cops. Anyone pulls a gun on me, I'm going, dude, whatever. Like, don't like,
absolutely,
right.
It's like, whatever you're going to do to me, just make it fast.
But that's not what Tupac did, Mike. And that's the point. It's like the conversation's very different, because there's this shit that people actually, it's when you're really trying to salvage your man pride, or when you're thinking more like, shit, I got a couple kids, I better not die right now. You know what I mean? Like, it's really different people are relating to this situation differently.
And that's true. I mean, I haven't grown up harassed by every cop, and I don't have cousins that are getting thrown in prison for things. And I'm like you're saying, that like every different type of kind of subgroup of society probably has a different opinion on a lot of things. Right. My experience with cops is when they pull out their guns, I just do what they say, man. Like, I mean, like, it is a totally wimpy, non-masculine compliance.
Well, so what happened in this case? The guy did what the cops said,
and they shot him
did,
anyway?
But then he started walking away from them, and that's when.
See, and that's when he got shot,
right?
And see, I'm kind of with Blag too. I mean, it's such a stressful situation.
Too much shit.
Yeah, it's too much.
They just wanted him to put his hands up, and he did it. Then that's okay.
And then they shot him.
Yeah, he ended up shot. But the other thing is, there was another guy. So there were 3 police officers who responded.
Is this going to be like a knock-knock joke or
No.
something? You got like 3
All right,
people, and it's you're setting it up. Is this real?
Knock. No, it was just.
Is Bob Saget going to come out? Is this like a Saget
absolutely
thing?
not, unfortunately. So this one guy had his taser pulled, and so that seems to be the appropriate level of response if you have concern. Like, why did this one woman pull out a gun?
Okay.
So one has a taser, one has a gun, and the third person, I don't even think he had. I think he just had his hand on his weapon.
Yeah.
There was no need for shots to be fired, and she said that he reached into his vehicle to get a gun.
Cops just get freaked out, and they fucking pull the trigger sometimes when they're not that good at what they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree.
Was there a gun in the car? Did they find a gun in the car?
I don't know.
Okay.
So far, they've not said anything about a gun in the car. What did happen, though, is the officer said that she feared for her life because the guy was acting erratically.
Yeah, that's not good enough. If the guy
exactly.
had a gun or he was waving a gun, shit happens. Like that one in Baton Rouge, which looked tragic, and there was footage of it, but still, it was like the report on the guy was he had a gun. He'd threatened somebody with a gun. The guy called the cops. So in that circumstance, it's like I find it hard to see what the cops can do, but it's better if they don't kill someone at any time. But the fact is, like, if somebody has a gun, that's one thing. If in this case the person was found not to have had a gun, then that's murder. You can't just shoot people. It's too, and it's understandable, but it's not.
Well, and I think what you're saying is
we can't accept it because then we're all likely to maybe get shot too.
Yeah, and I mean, I think things can be understood. There can be reasons for things, but at the same time, when you just like kill somebody, that's pretty extreme. You know, I'll never forget the first time I saw a guy got shot and killed. I was on a date. This is like '93 in San Jose.
No, I'm just wondering which is rarer, you being on a date or you seeing a guy get shot.
It totally ruined the date. It was a bummer, but I
love that. I love that it ruined the date.
It really did, man. It was totally like it sucked because you're just kind of like, all right, man. This is back like when it was a lot of like I had to save money to like go out to a movie and like go to like a. Wendy's or whatever, like a Denny's or something. It was like a big fancy Friday night out in San Jose.
You let her supersize, like things were going.
Yeah, it was like you can get an appetizer and a salad. Like, I got $40 on me. You know what I mean? And we're gonna go see a movie afterwards. We're gonna see Pulp Fiction or something. And we pulled in to get some gas, and all of a sudden, like I'm filling the car up, and like these cops just storm in, and this dude like runs and jumps underneath this car. And the cops, like, there's like 10 cops, and one of them, like, bends underneath the car and is like, bat, 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 bat.
Oh, fuck.
And I'm like, holy shit. Like, I was just like, holy shit. Like, fuck. Like, it was crazy. And I was like, oh, man. I remember I got in the car, and I was like, let's get the fuck out of here. And I was like, man, I can't believe they just shot that guy like that. Like, that's insane. Like, they can't just shoot the guy's knees out. Like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Well, it turns out that this fucking crazy fucker like went down all like Winchester Boulevard. He had a bunch of lighter fluid and shit, and like went into Burger King and lit the counter on fire and was going into store after store like lighting shit on fire.
Wow.
So they got this report. They're like, dude, this guy's at a gas station. He's gonna blow up this gas
Oh,
station.
fuck, yeah.
So they shot him. But my point is like even a crazy guy like that, I was like, they could have just shot his knees out. You know what I mean? Like
that's the other thing that I don't understand is why they don't take more non-lethal shots.
I think it's the training, dude.
I think it is.
Yeah,
too.
like you shoot to kill. Like like if you pull a gun out, and Blag, you could probably attest to this. You've been in enough situations. You pull a gun out, like you better be ready. You use it for what it's designed for. You know, you're not like going like, I'm going to pull this gun out, dude, and shoot your foot.
Right.
No, you're going to blow someone away. I mean, and maybe there needs to be a cultural mental shift from that where we shoot to maim.
Yeah, but
we've come such a long way. Now we shoot to maim.
Yeah,
but we can proudly tell our grandchildren,
we shoot to maim.
In our time, we shoot to maim.
Yeah,
but again, like I've never tried to shoot at someone, but when you try and shoot at a target that's stationary and you try and hit it, and even if you're not pointed towards dead center, it's hard to hit the target. Like if it's a moving target, they teach you always. In all the shows that I've seen, they're always shooting towards the center because even if they shoot to the center, they might not hit.
Yeah. You try to if you look at any target, they have like the center of mass.
Exactly.
That's where all your vital organs are.
Yeah.
Like you don't aim and try to be like, I'm going to shoot that guy's ear off. This is tragic.
That's
though,
what
man.
the Boston Bombers thought. They wanted to get the center of mass. They did.
Boom, boom, boom.
Hello.
So yeah. Anyway, so they she shot the Crutcher, and when after that they did find in his car a vial of a substance that they thought was PCP. They're testing it now.
That doesn't matter. You can't shoot somebody for having PCP.
Exactly.
Even in Tulsa, Oklahoma, you can't do that.
Yeah, but having PCP definitely points to, oops, I was doing some kooky shit. You know? I mean, that's the thing. Like, it's hard. It's always hard when you're talking about criminal justice reform because you're talking about reforms for people who aren't necessarily model citizens.
Mm-hmm.
And you're talking about like, hey, how can we keep from killing somebody who's running around with lighter fluid trying to hurt other people?
Yeah, all we know.
I sympathize a lot more with the cops than I did when I was a teenage drug dealer.
Yeah.
When I was a teenage drug dealer, it was like, yeah, fuck all the cops. I hate them. They're trying to tell me what to do. I mean, now when I look at them and what they have to do, I think, hey, better them than me. I don't want to deal with these people. These are the worst people to deal with.
Right.
And it's like, and so when you talk about reforming that, you got to start with where, the baseline, which is that it's a fucked up scene.
Well, and also, I mean, like you said, the guy that's lighting stuff on fire, he might just be on PCP thinking he's in a Black Sabbath video. You know what I mean? Like, he's completely disconnected from reality. You know what I mean? Like,
but again, the whole motto of the police department is to protect and serve.
Yeah.
So, they have to protect citizens that are around and their fellow police officers. But this car was stopped like on a abandoned, like on a side street. There was nothing around, and one person, they didn't even
try.
Like
she just got spooked, jumped the gun, and fucked up, which is like it's still murder. I mean, and it might, there's varying degrees to what degree it would be acceptable. Like if the guy made an obvious move for what looked like a gun, you could make an argument, hey, that was a fucked up thing, and you got to get the whole story. If what really happened was he put his hands up and he said, I'm not doing anything, and he was reaching for his car and he got shot, it sounds like she just kind of got spooked. Is that it was a female?
It was the female officer who shot. But the other thing too was his window.
And don't go making your sexist jokes now, Mike. I know what you're like. I know you're going to come in with some comment.
But they're saying the window was rolled up, so he
shooters.
couldn't have been reaching into the car.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So that sounds suspicious.
Well, I think
sounds like she was scared.
I think people get outraged when people.
Did the guy die?
Yeah, he's dead.
He died.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
that's very serious.
Yeah.
I mean, and it seems not justified. But if there's, I haven't seen the video footage, so I can't really talk intelligently about it. That's why, Mike. Next time you got to have the big video feed, the satellite.
We
thing
got the
from
big
CNN.
TV. How do we
got
how do we
this
broadcast?
Huge TV here.
We got headphones this
Were
time.
you just going to paint stuff on it? Were you just going to finger paint on this thing?
Dude, I'm a Luddite, man. I don't know how to work these things.
Well,
like,
next time we're
Read a
going to
book.
Next time we're going to have the TV, and I'll be able to say, go to the seat.
Well, I think this is the thing in a situation like this, and it's kind of what Blag's kind of alluding to, is that, if she messed up, she messed up. If she killed this dude, there should be consequences. I think what drives a lot of society crazy and why there's so many issues is that what appears there's a situation where people can just shoot people and there's really no repercussions. Like they get a couple weeks off, and no one should stand for that, and no one should accept that. I mean, if I pull a gun out,
agree with that.
if I pull a gun out in my house, someone's breaking in, I'm fully justified, and I shoot that person dead. When I pull that trigger, I'm expecting to lose everything I have.
Absolutely.
I'm expecting to be sued by people, to give up everything, right? And it shouldn't be different. I'm sure most cops, they realize if they shoot somebody, they could end up in jail. They realize that, and these things have to be examined and looked at. And like Blag said, I mean, if this chick got spooked and shot this guy, that's not a justified shooting. You know what I mean? Like if he had a hatchet and was like, pulled up a baby's head out of his vest and was like, I'm the you know what I mean? Like,
right, and the PCP makes that more likely. When's the last time you did PCP, Mike? That's what I want to know. I never did it intentionally, but boy, smoking that PCP, Doug, I got crazy.
Yeah. Well, the other thing though is, on our very first episode of the podcast, we had this guy who was on Flocka, which was this crazy ass drug. He went around, he executed a family, and he was eating one of the family's face off while he was
face eating.
Yeah, and the cops.
It's very alternative, Blag.
Yes. It's a new drug thing, but
it's like a bath salts thing. You wouldn't understand.
Yeah. So he was eating this, and the cops didn't shoot him because they said that he was that they didn't know that the victim was deceased, that he was eating or chomping the face off of.
Hey, you just got to tell Blag to listen to episode 1, bro.
Yeah.
You don't got to go over it all.
But I'm saying though,
there was a lot of and listen to everything now.
But there was a lot of uproar over this because he was white, and just like I think we talked about.
Well, look, I've always said white people are better face eaters, I'm going to stick.
Racist,
I'm going to stick by that. If that makes me a racist, so be it. White people eat faces better. Come on, give us something.
All right, well,
so this is kind of a developing story, Doug. I mean, it's I think that it's just horrific, man. I mean, like for some dude to, be bummed out high on PCP, his van breaks down in the middle of the street. He's already tripping out. He's like, "Are aliens abducting me? What's going on?" Next thing you know, he's dead. It's horrible, man.
And the other thing is, this guy was a prominent member of his church. He had he had been going to community college to kind of get his degree. His family
How old was the guy?
I think he was 40. 40. So he was definitely trying to get like his life all together.
Yeah, I mean, even at that, 40 isn't a very threatening age. I can see being more threatened by people who are younger when some crazier shit might happen. But like, how threatened are you by a dude who's 40 with his hands up? And I don't know. I mean, I'd have to see the footage. I hate to be one of those people yammering about it when I don't know.
And I think the big thing is, I mean, since this is obviously kind of going under that bigger umbrella of police shooting, I mean, to me it comes down to training. And the one thing I don't understand is like that there was a shooting a while back where like they pulled the guy over for like a broken taillight. Like, it's like, are you telling me like with the technology we have, we can't like take a picture of his license plate, send him a ticket in the mail? Like, we don't, like, to me, if I was an officer of the law, it would be all about like de-escalating situations and avoiding any type of conflict you can.
Right.
Even to the point where it's like, if you see some guy like
traffic stops are pretty ridiculous, and they're dangerous for cops, and they're a pain in the ass for everybody else. Like, it should be. You're absolutely right that they can.
Like, technology should be able to make cops have to like make half as less traffic stops as they do. Because the fact is, when you pull some dude over, you don't know if they're crazy, and it's like just by going and pulling them over, you're escalating the situation with an unknown. So it doesn't surprise me that cops walk up with their hands on their guns.
And it puts them in harm's way, and I would rather they be less in harm's way. That way they won't shoot the rest of us.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm all for that. Yeah, I think they're overexposed by having to do stops and that kind of stuff. Yeah. I mean, it should, but they're going to have to do stops when they think something's suspicious, because that's what they're there for,
So kind of going along with the same theme is that the other story is just happened in Charlotte, and it happened about 3.5 hours ago. So this is, again, another breaking story
that we don't know about.
That you don't know about.
Wow.
Blag, you're
just technologically savvy, Doug. You're in there. You know what's happening.
So,
I'm yesterday's news. I'm 3 hours ago's news.
A father and daughter were in their car waiting for their son or their brother to get off the school bus. So they're just going to pick him up from school. And the police were doing a felony warrant on someone else. And for some reason, they approached this daughter and father and daughter in their car and asked the guy to get out of his car.
No, was this a black and white thing again?
It was. So
okay,
this is another black.
Who was black? Who was white?
Well, it was a white officer and 2 black people in the car. Father and daughter were black. And the father apparently, according to the cops, got out of the car with a gun. They told him to put the weapon down. He went back to his car.
To put the weapon down?
Apparently, it's unclear.
Sure,
but then they shot him 4 times.
This just happened.
Just happened, and it's really gut wrenching because there's a 50-minute video online from the daughter streaming on her Facebook of everything that happened from that moment on. And it's actually gut-wrenching to watch.
Yeah, but I kind of wonder about that stuff in terms of, prejudicing you. If you don't know, like, I can see why someone would do that, because they want to immortalize this horrible injustice, and maybe it'll help them press their case, or maybe it just helps them process what they're going through. I don't in any way, I don't condemn the person who takes that video, but how much does it tell you about what actually happened?
It tells you nothing. I mean, the whole thing is you can't really say.
It just makes you very sympathetic with the person who's suffering the aftermath of it.
Right.
That was how I felt about the one where the guy got shot. He told the cop that he had a gun. And the cop shot him anyway, and then his girlfriend, who had a 4-year-old kid in there, was talking about it and saying, hey, you just shot this guy, and he told you that he had a gun. He wasn't going to do anything, you know. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Well, this guy, according to the family, he was reading a book on his lap, and they somehow mistook a book for a gun. There was no gun in the vehicle. They haven't reported that yet, though. But it sounds like the other thing, too, is the reason he went back to the car is he's handicapped, and that's why the daughter drives him to pick up their brother, is because he cannot drive on his own. So it sounds extremely unlikely that this guy was trying to take on the cops at all.
And this all started out as a case of mistaken identity.
No, it didn't. They went to
the wrong car, right?
No, they were serving someone else, and for some reason his car was close, so they asked him to step away from the vehicle or move away.
But he wasn't even involved in the initial call.
No.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah,
wow.
So I think that's the one I pointed to that just because then there was this other guy who here, and I'll pull that. I didn't get a chance to pull that up. But
we're pulling nothing up.
Yeah.
So me and Blag are sitting here.
So what if it turned out that the police, well, anyway, go.
So sorry. then there's another guy called Christopher Craig, and he was literally in a what they said he was wearing Afghan clothing with a mask on, walking through an elementary school. And like walking through the playground, he'd already sent threatening notices to local papers saying that people were going to die. And he was walking across the campus in Utah. This also happened today.
Wait, is this anot's story? Like, okay, so this is story number 3. You just totally did a time warp on me. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
But this guy's white, and he's clearly threatening people.
But he's dressed up like an Afghan.
Yeah, and I don't know.
Does that count as white now? I mean, isn't that Middle Eastern? I mean,
the guy was white, and somehow they were able to end that situation with no one getting killed, even though this guy had threatened people's lives. So here you've got 2 people who were black, and they were in situations that could have been resolved somewhat without people dying. Yeah. And then and neither of them were in what I would say highly threatening situations. And then you have this white guy in Utah who is clearly threatening people's lives.
Well, wait a second. There's only white people in Utah. I mean, that's not right. I mean, there's
also a lot of black cops and a lot of Latino cops too. I mean, I don't know if the basic thesis here is, it's unsafe to be a black person in America. I think you got to ask yourself a lot of other facts to see what backs that up. And personally, if it's unsafe to be black in America, is that because you're probably going to get shot by a cop? I think realistically, if you look at the numbers, the answer is no. It's just that these cases stand out egregiously because they seem so unjust.
So you think there were other people who were shot today who were white, and they're just like, oh, it's not big news because...
Probably. I mean, probably. I think that, it seems like the
number of people who cops shoot is small. It's minuscule. There's not that many. It's a couple hundred a year, man, that are unarmed, and it's maybe 1,000 more that are armed. And I don't think that many people object when armed people get shot, depending.
Yeah, it's just when they're. I think the bigger thing is when they're not armed,
right?
And you have 2 options: a gun and a taser, and like in the first, what we were talking about before, you had 2 police officers, one with a taser and one with a gun, and somehow the guy got shot, and he should have been tasered.
Yeah.
He should not have been shot.
Yeah, I think
he probably
a lot
shouldn't
of
have been tasered either. It sounds like the woman just lost it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that most people don't know. I'm
ignorant.
Mike
would say she was having her period or something, but I wouldn't suggest something like that because that's exactly the kind of thing that he would start throwing around.
But I don't know a lot about how police officers are trained.
Please feel free to send mail to Blag.
Yes, exactly. It's easy found. But
if I get a lot of mail, man, then we got a whole new show.
Excellent.
That's what I'm saying.
Response.
Right.
Response
if you even
corner.
got one letter, who sends letters anymore? You know what I mean? If you guys get one letter,
you know who sends letters? like the good people.
The good people.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
good
You know what I
folks
mean? Like the
still
interesting people.
Yeah.
People who are like, wow, all right, you got a stamp. People who are off the grid, man.
Send us a letter, man.
Yeah, it seems like it's such a complex situation. I know you guys are going to be shocked, but I actually have a sociology degree from Santa Clara University. So I've done a lot of studying when it comes to racial bias and socioeconomic disparities and why ghettos become ghettos and the multiple factors that go into racial situations is I guess the thing with the current kind of temperament of our country, it's so black and white, it's so simplified,
right?
And there's always more to any story or any situation, and it doesn't really seem like either side wants to really hear it,
right?
No matter what it
that
is.
Gets to the essence of exactly how I feel about it. Is that without making any comment on the justice or injustice of any given police shooting, it's like I don't think police shootings have a lot to do with the state of most Americans day to day, including Black Americans. I think there's other shit going on.
Right, and
way bigger shit. And I think a lot of this
way
stuff,
bigger shit and a lot bigger numbers. There's a huge homicide rate in the African American community, and almost none of them are cops shooting them.
Right.
So, I mean, it depending on what you want to focus on, you can get deeper and deeper in this. What I've found is that just what Mike said, it's identity politics that makes it impossible to talk about this stuff rationally.
Sure.
Because if you can't use the facts and the numbers and break it down that way, then you just get people saying, hey, you can't understand me. You don't understand people who've suffered in the way that I have. And they're correct. You can never exactly know how other people have suffered, but you can try and have empathy for them and make a society that works reasonably. But what's being asked now in the age of identity politics is like, it's a weird little tightrope that white, somebody like us, where it's white heterosexual men who are all the perceived dominant groups, we have to walk this tightrope because the idea is we're supposed to be more inclusive because of how things have been traditionally. But then all the other groups are supposed to be able to look at it like, hey, what about us? What about my specialty group?
And I think
so if you allow tribalism from one group, whether it's Black people, Latino people, or any Middle Eastern people, but you don't allow tribalism with white people because you call it acting like a white supremacist and perpetuating a bad system, then you don't. It's imbalanced. Either we can be tribal or we can't be tribal. I think it's better if we're not tribal. But try telling that to somebody representing their interest group.
That's an interesting point that you bring up because I know a lot of the language that's being used for, like, say, Black Lives Matter and stuff, and a lot of the shirts that I see being made from guys in Oakland and stuff. And I'm like, those are the same phrases that a bunch of skinheads use. Like, it's like there's no thought going into that, Well, and granted, you can say, what do you know? You're just a white dude. And, you're right. I'm just a white guy. But just like I don't know your experience, you don't know my experience,
But,
and I think the other thing, too, is if you even take it to a step further, when you talk about historical oppression of people, right, whether due to race or economics or whatever, pick up a world history book.
Right.
And kind of, thumb through it, thumb through the dark ages. You know what I mean? Thumb through, early civilizations. I mean, life is
the
brutal.
Shameful histories of all the other countries.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the thing. Like, people on the American left like to point up, and I think reasonably so, the injustices of America. But, every country has them, and so it makes it. It's naive to act like the other countries are being kinder.
Sure, and I had a personal experience like that. I went to Japan, and it's like in Japan, like they think if you're not Japanese, you're basically a filthy pig.
Yeah.
You're a lower form of human, and they don't even call you like an American. They call you a foreigner. Like everyone's just a foreigner.
Gaijin.
And I remember talking to someone, and they're like, dude, like America's crazy because it's like you have everyone over there, like different cultures. So of course you're gonna have problems. You have like different races, and like to me, that's one of the things that makes this country awesome. It's like as much as I love Japan, I can never become Japanese. But guess what? If a dude in Japan loves America, he can become an American.
Absolutely.
Isn't there supposed to be some patriotic music going on?
Yeah.
But even with all the problems and all the issues, but and I've talked to people from Ireland, and they're always amazed at this country because they're like, well, of course you have like racial issues,
some
and
of them
religious
can even
issues.
speak English over there.
Barely, and because there isn't a defined culture, there isn't a defined language, there isn't a defined like nothing's defined as it is in other countries. You know what I mean?
What I find interesting is that they talk about diversity in America, and the way it's discussed is basically, the more we displace the sort of traditional ruling class of white people, the more diverse we're going to be and the more stronger a country we're going to be. But what you were describing about Japan kind of describes a more diverse world, but it's a more homogenous country. In other words, there's one country you can go to where it's mostly Japanese people. And I don't know that that's such a terrible thing or that it's such an affront to diversity. But we as Americans look at that as this affront to diversity. Why can't you have everybody in your country? It's like, well, it won't be Japan anymore.
Yeah.
And I mean, we have given that away in our country in exchange for having this great cultural melting pot of various cultures, and it does make us better in a lot of ways. But what's so hard to face is the ways that it makes us worse. We don't want to face that because it's like, it feels vaguely racist to face the ways. But part of what it does is it really decreases democracy. I mean, what the average Japanese person wants based on the results of their democracy. You know what the average Scandinavian person wants, Danish person, Norwegian person, based on the results of their democracy. In America, man, the fix is in. It's such a mess, such a polyglot of these, divergent interests. One group of people looks at it like, I don't want to subsidize those people. They look different than me. It's really like damaged our political cohesion. America used to be a really politically cohesive place that could make up its mind. We're going to go invade Europe to get rid of the Nazis. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Sometimes the moves were really incorrect and wrong. But we had a certain homogenous quality to us where, we knew who our leaders were. That's broken down. That's fractured. And everyone says, things are better now with more diversity. But I would argue they're better in some ways, and then they're worse in some ways. You know?
And I think that's just, not to get too, old and crotchety, but that's, things change, things evolve, and one of the things about America is that, the one thing I've realized in my short life is that things will never be how they were 5 years ago. Like things continue to progress, things continue to change. You either understand that or you become a person that's trying to grab onto an anchor and recreate the 60s or the 50s or the 70s or the 80s. It's just not going to happen. You know what I mean? No matter how cool things were or how much things may have been better for the average person, it's like what we have is what we have today. And
Right.
It's just going to continue to evolve. Better or worse, who the hell knows? But, my thing is...
As long as 2 for Tuesday endures,
I know, exactly.
I'm okay.
Mandatory Metallica. If that goes, we're all going to hell.
Get the lead out.
Yeah, but my point is, it's like, I think that there's an ideal, right, in this country that we have, and we want to kind of maintain that, and we want to hold on to that. The fact is, that's gone. Like when you have something in your hand, it changes the minute you realize it. Things just progress like that.
Well, but I would argue something even more crotchety that, really we've lost something fundamental.
Get off my lawn!
Yeah. I mean, we've kind of lost our civic structure, and we've replaced it with more like a celebrity civic structure. The cracks in the edifice were there. Ronald Reagan, the guy who was like, gee, wasn't he a movie star a couple years ago? Now he's our president. And then it was, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Gee, this other guy got elected. No, we decided we didn't like him. We're going to install a movie star. He probably knows things. And now we're looking at that with Trump. It's like, I think the body politic has changed in a fundamental way. And again, identity politics is a big part of it. If you look at the Democratic Party, it's like it doesn't stand for much except different identity blocks of people.
Well,
you know what I mean? It's not. Once upon a time, it stood for working people writ large, or the environment writ large, or these big events. Now it really doesn't. Now it stands like, okay, 93% of people with black skin voted for Obama. I mean, is that really democracy anymore when everybody's voting their identity block? Some would argue, yes, that's the biggest version of democracy.
Mm-hmm.
I would say not really. There's this civic ideal that we need to have, and we've lost it. We've given it up. And it's really, I think it's changing things in a fundamental way.
Well, I think you brought up something really important, which is celebrity. And that's our next story.
Look at that guy.
Good segue.
He's like, I'm tired of these old guys talking over
Right.
here.
Doug segue.
So,
Doug segue.
yeah. Pew. let's go off in another
Doug's
direction.
relatively old too, though, Mike. You know what I mean? He's better looking, but
I know.
he's relatively old.
Yeah. You look great, by the way, Blag.
My friend,
You guys all look great.
Crazy.
Let's
we
just
are a
hug.
good-looking
Let's just have
crew.
a moment where we all hug.
I know.
We can hug now, but let's go out and fuck strippers after.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Or that.
Yeah.
We aren't far from the strip clubs. So,
That's
so Jim Carrey, I don't know if you remember last year, but he had a very tough year where his girlfriend passed away.
Mm.
Do you guys remember anything about that?
No, what happened?
So Jim Carrey was dating this girl, Catherona White, and she committed suicide in September.
Horrible.
Yeah. So when, obviously, suicide is terrible, but now he's getting sued. And he's getting sued because
That's what people do?
Yeah,
well,
really.
why
You had this tragic event. Let's sue you.
Right.
Money off this.
Right, exactly. So that's the immediate response
they
that you
suing
have
for?
is that this who hit her family
Her
is looking,
family's suing him.
yeah, and
Okay.
looking for money, and that's what you'd say, but Jim Carrey knew that she had issues and troubles, especially with drugs.
Well, that's why she was good in bed.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Oh wow.
Hello.
Again.
So
Just write Blag directly.
yeah. So wait a second. So you're telling me basically Jim Carrey, everyone knew this chick had substance problems. It was on the edge, and so he was like, "Hey, what do you want for breakfast? Here's a bowl of cocaine." Like just was like.
Were they
feeding her
drugging
drugs?
together? Is that the accusation?
Well, he had given her drugs, and the drugs were he had acquired in a false name.
Did he use the name Charlie Sheen?
Now I can't remember exactly what the name was, but
Neither can he.
yeah. But it was about 3 days before she passed away. He had gotten her like Percocet and some other drugs, and
Well, but did he get them for himself and she took them, or they were kind of doing them together? I mean, that's
no,
kind of hard to affix blame at that point if people are kind of doing shit together, and
Yeah,
it's hard to know what, right? I mean,
yeah. So that's the big thing is like at what
I
point
mean,
does
Doug,
he
when
have
you're
it?
sitting around doing Rohypnol with those Laotian stripper girls down in on
That's
Broadway
Sunday,
there?
but yeah, okay.
Yeah, you don't know what's going on.
Yeah. So anyway, he
I mean, are you accountable for every jot and tittle of drug abuse they do? I don't think so.
no, I well the problem becomes is when somebody has a huge drug problem and then you acquire drugs on their behalf to give to them.
But he's probably a drug addict too. They're probably doing them together, right?
Quite possibly.
And I would just love him that much more. I liked him ever since Living Color. So if he's doing drugs too, I'm down.
I tend to think that if I mean, it could be just a stereotype, but I tend to think that if you're with someone who's doing a lot of drugs, like a lot, to the point where you're going out and getting them drugs off the record, you're probably
doing them.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, the fake name that he used was Arthur King.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wasn't he like a tennis player or something?
I mean, to really ask me if this whole thing was worthwhile, I'd have to know what the sex was like between the two of them.
All right. Well, we'll find out, and then we'll get back. We'll have a follow-up.
We'll do a follow-up.
So, Doug, what is so the family's saying basically like you basically poisoned our daughter to death?
She would have been
Yes.
fine without you.
Well, no, that he knew that she had a drug addiction.
She's
she should
making.
not.
They're making the point, which proves his innocence, right?
Right.
She had a drug addiction. So did he. Probably that's why they got together.
And that's what Drew Carey, or
Jim Carrey.
Drew
Jim
Carrey
Carrey.
has his own thing.
Drew Carey
Let's
has his own
make a
thing.
deal.
But Jim Carrey said basically,
Do you think Drew Carey had sex with this girl before they did drugs together?
quite possibly.
So
Maybe
it's
that
Drew
was the
and
problem.
Jim, yeah,
But-
because that's got to be hard on a woman.
So he basically said, this is a very troubling event. It was a very tough time, and that these people are trying to profiteer off of a tragic event.
How long were they together for?
I have no idea.
Were they just like boyfriend girlfriend?
Here, let's see.
Yeah, he was with old McCarthy,
Jenny McCarthy. Yeah.
autism and vaccination.
So he started dating her in 2012.
2012. So that's like a 4-year relationship.
Yeah. So
I mean, it seems like if I was with a chick for 4 years and like she died, like I might like kick down the family something just because like, hey, like I don't know, if I was Jim Carrey and you had like unlimited money, right? Do you do that, Blag? Do you do that? I mean, like,
yes, you might want to kick them some money, but you might not want to be told in court that you have to kick them some money. I mean, I don't know.
Like if they were close, you know what I mean? Like you're with someone for 4 years, you become friends with their family. It's like you're grieving.
Right. It doesn't
you
sound
give
like
them money.
that.
Maybe you don't.
I don't
know. You don't give them
know.
money. You pay for the services, right?
Or maybe you set up a charity in behalf of her for people who have similar drug addiction.
Like if people have old drugs and the expiration dates come up, they can send
them
Jim
there.
Carrey, yeah.
And then he'll distribute them to his new Past Love women.
Yeah. Oh man, that's.
That's what I was expecting, Doug. From
right.
You, the impresario, the entrepreneur of this group, constantly surrounded by a gaggle of hot ass babes at your upscale bars, and then I come down here and it's like it's you, me, and No Name.
Yeah.
There's no booze. There's
what a
no
disappointment.
Drugs. Yeah. There's no naked women.
Well, Mike isn't drinking anymore.
Is that right?
Wow.
Straight edge,
wow.
man. Straight edge.
He's
straight edge.
fabulous. That's why.
Yeah, man. I eat salad now. It's
Yeah,
great.
kale
So
salad.
Keeping you regular. You're shitting and pissing. And
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Well, this is going to be probably one of our most hearty, like
your most
wholesome
episode.
podcast ever.
Wait, what do you expect when you got Blag the Ripper in the house, man?
Absolutely.
I try and keep it clean for the kids, man.
Yeah, there's lessons to be learned. There's knowledge to be gained. I mean, that's what Blag.
And listen, Jim Carrey, I'll take your leftovers, whatever you got. I bet. You know what I mean? If you're going out with a new girl now, and you get sick of her, holler at me.
Yeah, or I thought you wanted him to send you some drugs.
Or just send me some dope. Yeah,
expired drugs.
Yeah, I can make up for.
Or sorry, Andrew King.
I got a question, Blag, because you're talking about Jim Carrey. Do you know? Are there any kind of famous movie stars that are fans of the Dwarves? Like, do you have on record like what if Jim Carrey's like, oh my god, dude, I love the Dwarves?
I don't know if Jim Carrey knows this, but we're in that movie, Me, Myself, and Irene. There's a bit where he's pounding on the dashboard of his car, and he's singing along to our song "Motherfucker," and he's actually singing the lyrics. So at some point, he had to hear it and see it. I don't know that it made any impact on him. I would love to think so.
Well, maybe he's listening to the podcast and he'll reach out.
I would love it if there were a lot of famous people who were Dwarves fans, but even more to me is when it's like a teenage girl and she's just learning to masturbate.
Yeah.
She's a Dwarves
That's more
fan.
important.
Yeah, that for me is what I got into this business
That's what it's about.
Right.
Famous people is great because that can lead to the more important.
Yes, they're influencers. They're influencers.
That's right.
I just wondered, if you knew, if you could name drop, as a matter of fact, dude, I know for a fact that, Brad Pitt is a Dwarves fan.
I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't compromise them. But let me just say.
That's the thing. They probably are. They're just afraid to admit it for the repercussions.
That's right. And I wouldn't want to ruin their careers by besmirching them with the name the Dwarves. But I will say this. Jennifer Lawrence.
Yeah,
yes.
baby.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I didn't hear anything.
She's all about the fucking Dwarves, man. She's
Excellent.
all over it. She's got a little bow and arrow aimed right at my heart, dude.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
Sweet. So I think that wraps up another excellent episode.
So fast.
Podcast 7.
It went too damn quick. My love for you knows no boundaries, Mike, Doug.
Well, you're always welcome back.
Dude, we got to do this. I feel the chemistry in this room, man. It's crackling.
It's definitely crackling.
It's crackling. Crack-a-lackin'.
Crack-a-lack and flackling.
All right.